Welcome, 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 everybody, to the open bar. I was just chatting with our panelists kind of backstage, but I did not check. Everybody? Anybody bring a drink? Got one? Woo, woo, woo. There we go. There we go. Kelly, I see you've got a water, and I got to be honest, I'm on Pacific time too. It's water in here. But mostly, folks, because I had a little conversation with myself about the nightly bottle of wine I've been opening over the last 2 weeks. So please have another course for me, Adam. I appreciate that. That's cool. Welcome. I'm just waiting for everybody else to pop in. I'm so glad that you guys are going to find this helpful. I see tons of tips out there on LinkedIn and some informal sessions, and maybe you're attending all of them, or maybe you chose this one because we've got some really fantastic experts. So I sent out the bat light saying, who can help us out? And we got so many amazing responses. So you're about to meet my favorite people, apparently. These guys had incredible tips, and they had tips from so many different areas. We've got stuff like enablement, we've got heads of sales, we've got GMs, we've got consultants, we've got frontline. So I learned so much in curating some of this content. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
And by the way, Lauren, you've got a tip on the chat, which is you should switch to box wine because it's more cost effective from Michelle Brown. So, I mean, they're already coming in. Great stuff.
I am not above box wine. Let me just be very clear about that. Really good idea. And my fridge is kind of empty, but I will admit to stocking the freezer, so I can make room for boxed wine. I have a love affair lately with Prosecco. Does anybody else like that? So I don't think that boxes very well. In fact, let's open up our interaction right now. If you can please find your chat button. And most importantly, we're going to start this open bar with chat us your drink of choice right now. What do you love to drink? You may always feel free. Oh, this is great. Rosé, red wine. This is fun. I love seeing all these names. I'm so happy you guys are here. Good. I'm a Crown person too. I like their flavored Crown and Crown Black a lot right now. Yeah, Prosecco, so much better than champagne, right? Thanks for being cheap with me, Michael. Working? It's working. I like Cava too, if you've ever had like the Spanish version. Okay, well, we've got, oh, this is fantastic. We have about 100 people here live with us, including my cat who's decided to join the webinar. Say hi to Ziggy, who wants to be fed. Let's meet our panelists. Ziggy is not one of them. Here we go. Come on, my little slide. Come with me. Yeah, wonderful. We're going to start with Gabby. Give us our 20-second intro, please.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. So exciting to see a great participation. My name is Gabby Coren, and I'm the general manager of Glassbox. We are in the digital customer experience space, which is seeing a significant surge now that all brick and mortar is kind of closing and customers are being asked to be more digital in this social distancing era and time. And I run a team of about 50 here in the Americas, and the majority is actually remote. So this is regular life for us.
Yeah.
And looking forward to to hear the great questions from the from everyone here in the webinar.
Good. Gabby had some amazing tips, and she's representing our longtime virtual, our customer success, and our general manager perspective. Margaret, tell us about you.
Hi, I'm Margaret Askew. I'm with Elsevier. I've been here almost 23 years. Kind of grew up in the company. Currently, I'm the Vice President of Sales and Customer Success. I have been managing remotely for 11 years, and I lead a team of about 63. We are definitely navigating in the last year about those of the team is in the office, but we've been expanding to, home-based. How do you work at home 2 or 3 days a week? And now, obviously, with COVID-19, we're all at home, and so that's definitely been a big change pretty quickly. Elsevier is a health professions publisher. And if you think about the healthcare, those who become nurses, doctors, vets, they start in education. And so that's our space.
Cool. Thank you. Some really good insights to share. And we love having sales leader talk to the rest of us, the sales leaders, on what to do. Paul Butterfield, Tell us about you.
Hi, I'm excited to be here as well, Lauren. Thanks. So my background is spent most of my career up to about 7 years ago in sales and sales leadership, where I led remote sales organizations and several different times. And then I have been sales enablement leader for the last about 7 years of my career. So I currently lead global sales enablement for Instructure, leading edutech platform. My team is currently all remote. Previously, before I came here, I was with Vonage, and that was a global team, all remote. So probably all in, I've probably led teams maybe 10 years in different scenarios. So excited to share what I've learned.
Thank you. And not only years and years of leading remote teams, but that enablement perspective. We've got to partner with our enablement teams right now. Adam, by the way, super cool picture. Tell us about you.
Hi, Adam Chambliss. I am frontline sales manager at FieldEdge. So FieldEdge is a field service software. So for HVAC shops, plumbers, electricians, folks like that. I've got a background that includes 5 years as a remote sales rep myself, 2 years leading a remote sales team. The last 7 years of my career, I've been leading inside sales teams, but even the inside sales teams have become remote right now. And so I'm kind of being thrust back into remote management and having to relearn how to ride that bicycle a little bit.
Yeah, right. We've asked him to ride a second bike at the same time today, and because it was really tempting to have a 27-person panel, but apparently that's not best practice, folks. So Adam is going to talk to us about remote management, but also the perspective of your reps who are remote. So we may have tons of ideas, and we've empowered him to raise his hand and basically call BS when one of our ideas didn't hit him well as a rep along the way. So Kelly, talk about somebody who's not afraid to say BS and call people out on stuff. Kelly's on my team, and I'm really proud to have him here because, wow, has he made a difference with some of his clients in the last few weeks. Tell us about you.
Yeah, my name's Kelly Spencer. I've been working in inside sales for 22 years. I've been individual contributor, led extremely large teams. Really what I'm bringing to the conversation today is I've had the opportunity over the last month to really follow this as it's matured, I guess is the best word to say, and how companies are dealing with moving to remote and what they're doing to really address culture and accountability and things like that, and just what they're doing with their employees. So, I have a unique lens that I look through because I get to see what lots and lots of companies are doing and how they're being impacted. So really looking forward to it. Thank you so much for all. And looking forward to the conversation.
Kelly, I'm going to kick it to you first, but first I do have to introduce myself. If we don't know each other yet, I'm LB. I'm founder of Factor 8 and Girls Club, and my job here is to just ask good questions. So let's hope I don't mess that up. Stopping the share so that we can just see everybody and have a conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, keep your chat live. Feel free also to use question, Q&A. Kate on my team is going to be monitoring Q&A. We have a few already sent in that we're ready to answer, but we'll as we go. So Kelly, I want to start with that general perspective. One of the things you shared that you're hearing a lot from people is the teeter-totter. I need to drive productivity, but I don't want to micromanage. So how have companies been sort of reviewing metrics management?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Right when everything first happened, it was, how do I manage a remote sales force, right? If I haven't done it before, how do I do that? And what I found in a lot of one-on-ones with managers and even group sessions is there was this thing that was happening where because as a manager, you're used to so much interaction on a daily basis, being reactive to all these things that go on. And now you have this time, you're almost kind of attracted to looking at reporting. And because you're looking at reporting, you want to react to that, which is creating this almost micromanagement mentality of, oh, rep A is not doing this. Let me instant message them. Let me get on the phone and call them and see what's going on. And, we've just been having conversations on, having one-on-one conversations, setting good expectations, having morning huddles where those expectations are reinforced, and then really allowing your team to get back with you in the afternoon and do a checkout and say, here's what I did, which ultimately is going to free up a lot of your time from, watching the news, or in our case, that's reporting, so that you can actually do call coaching and things that are going to really benefit the team. So it's been interesting, just the evolution of that. But I would say almost every single company I've worked with has kind of dealt with that. I feel I'm micromanaging. I'm getting feedback that I'm micromanaging, and I'm not sure how to not do that, right?
And what a good tip. If we get out of the reactive and set a good expectation, then all we have to do is check back and allow people to report to us on how they performed against it. Nice one, Kel. Thank you. Margaret, I want to come over to you next. I wore this shirt because of you. One of the things I loved most that you said was be real. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think it's really important, like Kelly is talking about, not to micromanage and really understand your team and get to know them for who they are and their strengths that they bring to, your team. And one of the things I was thinking about that I've done over the last couple months and looking at this year, and now obviously it's extremely important now with the COVID-19 situation, is making sure that you understand your team, maybe like the love language. You know how you have the book of the love language for your family, your marriage, your teenagers, tips on that. I was just kind of thinking of relating it as, what is each of my team members, how do they relate? How do they hear things? How do they feel when I'm asking the same thing of everybody, but yet it's being interpreted a little bit differently? And so instead of just assuming I understand, that they understand what I'm asking, it is, like Kelly said, checking in, making sure, how do they feel about that? Because maybe post this, prior to this situation, they got it. Now they've got everything going on, and, their anxiety is a little bit higher. Making sure that you're checking in and you're letting them know that you know them, and that they know that you're there for them and that you get them, right? I get you. I mean, and it matters, and we're all in this together. No one's alone in this.
Yeah, I like that. You even said how you try to be real yourself, and you just connect personally and be authentic with people, because we all are at different stages of acceptance. And I know I flip-flop back and forth. I'm like super optimistic, and then I'm depressed. So it happens, and it's okay to share that. It's good. Adam, the thing that I really picked up on that you had said was, don't overthink this. Like, it's good to be prepared, but take it away.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking to myself a little bit with this, that, like I said, I spent the last 7 years managing inside teams, and then we get shifted to working remotely, and all of a sudden I'm doing some of the things that Kelly's talking about that reps don't like. I'm micromanaging, I'm sending out reports constantly. And it took me the better part of a week to kind of wake up and say, wait a minute. Why are you drastically changing your management style just because these guys are remote? In a given day, if you notice that someone wasn't doing the right things, you wouldn't blast out an email to the entire team with everybody's metrics. You would walk over to that specific person and you would ask them, hey, is everything okay? What have you been working on today? Is there a reason this is low or that is low? That doesn't have to change. Just pick up the phone and give them a call versus blasting out some copy and pasted report to the entire team. And so just, that's an example that Kelly brought up, but just in general, don't overthink it too much. The things that have made you very successful as a manager, whatever your style is, you should continue to do those, and don't try to interject all of these new processes and concepts just because your folks are remote.
Nicely said. Thank you. Gabby, I really liked what you talked about with assumptions. Like, you can't make assumptions about where your team is, what they need, and even their knowledge. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I really relate to what everybody says. It's all about communication, staying and being in touch and understanding that things change. The fact that I called someone a week ago and everything was, rosy and dandy and beautiful, it doesn't mean that, yesterday wasn't a breakdown there. So we're saying, do not assume, ask the questions. And in my case, I also understand that for my managers, it's also hard, it's hard times, and they also need to adjust, and they also need to to have someone that says, hey, I care about you. Tell me what you need. Tell me where you struggle. This is where in these times when it's hard for everybody, this is where leadership gets really tested to its limits. And people are looking for that the same way that our kids are looking for the parents to be strong and know what is happening and have answers. I'm doing the same analogy. Everybody wants organizations to have leadership that can make a decision, can communicate clearly, can update on where we are. So do not assume that people understand. Just because you ask questions, people understand what you mean, what is expected from them. Be clear, be transparent, and never, never, never forget to communicate.
Yeah, and that one hit me, right? Like, I've communicated it, but I haven't done the back end around, if you will, to say, what did you hear? We have to take an extra layer or step or two to make sure that that's working for people. And you went as far as to say, test their knowledge. I thought that was interesting, right? If you're rolling something out, you could hear it in the background in the past. Oh, whoa, he's pitching that wrong. You can't now unless you're doing co-coaching like Kelly's talking about. So taking the time to test is important. Paul, what I thought was really good was you talked about expectations. That's really what I pulled out of yours. There's worry, there's expectations. What's your advice there?
I saw a great quote. I think it was when Adam was talking. It reminded me of a quote I read just today that said, to learn if you can trust somebody, start by trusting them. And Adam, you kind of reminded me of that quote. And so when it comes to expectations, everybody's communication styles are different. And the longer you've been with your team, the more you'll get to know that. But especially right now, if you have folks that are working remote for the first time or working 100% remote for the first time, they may not, you almost have to over communicate to make sure that everyone understands not only what the outcomes and expectations are, but also what their autonomy is. When should they come to you? Because again, you're not just right there. They can't turn to you or grab you in the hall. And I like what you said, Lauren. Also, make sure that they heard what you think you said. But I think my takeaway is you really can't over communicate, just to help make sure people feel they know where their role is. They know, and make sure they feel enabled and empowered to do the things that you've asked them to get done.
Yeah, that can happen for sure. So I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. Let's talk about meetings. Paul, while you're up, you gave some good do's and don'ts about meetings right now. Talk to us.
One of the things I found, and this is you'd also asked us about some things, or maybe we had, said, "Ooh, I won't do it that way again." And this falls a little bit into that bucket. I tend to be rapid fire in my delivery style and in the way that I process information. That's not how everybody does it. And when you're in a room meeting, you can read body language. It's a little easier to be tuned into everybody. It's not as easy on video. So for example, if I'm leading a group discussion or we're just having a group discussion, putting a question out there or asking for people's feedback and then giving people time to process and respond. If you also are like me and you happen to have a rapid fire, style, because everybody, they need time to kind of think about it and come back and talk. And along with that is watch for those that are kind of lingering a little bit in the background. Again, video meetings, Zoom meetings are not the same dynamic. Not everybody is comfortable with them, and you may need to not so much draw people out by calling them out, but maybe if you see somebody that's not doing as well with it, assigning them part of your next team meeting or giving them a chance to something that they're really good at or some of their expertise so they can shine a little bit in the meeting to help get them more comfortable with the format. Those are a couple of things I think of.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Paul. Peer-to-peer learning is absolutely the best way to get your teams engaged, learning. They feel like they're contributing. They just feel like they're a part of the team. So I love peer-to-peer, and especially when you can really have somebody who's going to communicate well and be willing to share their best practices and how things have been working, and even their don'ts, right? I mean, their don'ts are just as important as our don'ts as well. I mean, they're on the front line.
Great.
We can't hear you, Lauren.
Yeah, are you muted, Lauren? I was worried it was my audio at first. I'm glad somebody said something.
You guys didn't like that tip? That was
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it to action right now.
Was the tip to unmute yourself?
I laid down some serious knowledge. Yeah, I'm having a microphone fail over here. So luckily it just switched over for me really quick. Apologies. So a cool tip I heard earlier was inviting reps to share their screens, not just always that one way. And that's part of peer-to-peer learning, of course. I don't know if it was you, Paul or Adam, who was talking about, listen, video messaging and meeting is cool right now, but don't overdo it. Like, it's tough from a rep point of view back to back. Adam, talk about that.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend of mine about this earlier, and we're kind of on different sides of the fence because he's leading a team and he's using a lot of video messaging, and it might be working really well for them. But I can tell you as a rep and even as a manager, it gets a little exhausting, when you feel like you're spending big chunks of your day staring in front of a camera with other people. I think there's multiple things that make it a little bit challenging. One, it's just not something you're used to doing. You're not used to just sitting and staring at a camera for large amounts of time. And then two, I don't know that it's necessary for one-to-one conversations always. I do think there's times where seeing someone's body language is really important. Maybe it's a crucial conversation. Maybe it's a team meeting where you're trying to drive engagement. But I think there's, at least today, what I'm seeing, I think there's some overuse of the video meetings happening with some remote workers. Don't overthink it. Again, but just pick up the phone and call someone. You think about the relationships you have in your personal life. I may be wrong, but I don't do a lot of video meetings with relatives and friends that are distant. I typically just call them. We don't set up a whole lot of video meetings. So back to my point of not overthinking it, try to just make a phone call whenever possible and reserve the video meetings for some crucial conversations or team meetings or things of that nature. That's my perspective on it.
Well, you also said resist the temptation to chat. I mean, raise your hand out there, everybody, if your Slack, IM, AOL, whatever you use is just freaking blowing up all day long right now. Yeah, for us on video, we've got all of our hands up. Kelly, I do that to you, so sorry. But I invite everybody else to as well. Raise your hand, give me a hell yeah in your chat, whatever the case may be. So as a leader, we need to remember that it's really easy to misunderstand those things, and picking up the phone makes a really big difference. Yeah, I'm seeing some yeses come in on that slide in a big way. I'm going to pivot a little bit, and I want to talk about recognition. So in fact, that came in live as a question for people too. How do we keep that positive momentum going when they're not in the office with the celebration screens, with the music and the pump it up, right? Paul, I'll go to you, and Kelly and Margaret on this one.
If your company has invested in an internal recognition tool like a Motivosity or Applause, take advantage of it. I'm surprised sometimes to see, hear people say, "Oh my gosh, my points just expired for the month." And I mean, there's a reason that you guys have that. And it's not so much about the points in my experience. People like just it's a public way that they're recognized. If you don't have that, and I actually use both, I've also found that using LinkedIn, and if you don't know how to give kudos on LinkedIn, it's a really cool feature. They only added it maybe in the last year. And I have found that's another way that people just really like to be recognized. It's public. Their whole network's going to see it because you tagged them. And it's just another way I found to recognize people when you can't be with them all the time.
So it's different than a post. It's actually like a kudos button.
Yes. If you, I don't have the screen right in front of me, but if you go in there, instead of doing a post, one of the choices for a while now has been send a kudos. And so when you click on that, they have a half dozen or so templates that you can use and some suggested language, which you can edit. And then you just tag the individual or individuals. You can give kudos to multiple people at once. It's a really cool feature. And then it shows up in your feed. It's big, it's colorful, it grabs people's attention because it's graphical. So yeah.
I had no idea. Live learning. Yeah. Thank you.
Margaret, and it's for free.
Yeah. We got to love free right now. Margaret, how are you recognizing people? What are you doing creative virtually?
Yeah, this actually came up today. We had somebody from the field send some kudos to one of our teams today about how well they worked with the customer and how well they did this and that. And honestly, that is their job. That's what they do day in and day out. But I think because in the situation we're in now, they took the time to say, oh my gosh, your team was amazing today, talking about my customer success team, right? And so I asked them, I'm like, you know what? Send that team a quick little kudos, thank you. Let them know. Thank you for letting me, but let them know. Send them a quick video chat or just an I am or something, just a goofy little face. Be funny, fun. Be happy with them. And, you know, it doesn't need to be a lengthy email with everything that they did that made the impact, but just, you know, this team is used to being in the office all the time together and definitely feeling motivated by each other. So hearing and feeling that outside team appreciate them in a fun way is just really exciting. In fact, when I did that, I actually copied some other people on the email and it went viral. It went viral and they said, absolutely, great idea. I'm gonna tell other people to do it too. Because I think we do think about communication only from a work perspective. And so I think one of the things that we've seen with this situation, this pandemic, is that we're actually trying to take a step back and be human, be real again, right? Be happy, be fun, make people feel good about what they're doing and what they're contributing. And just sharing is really important.
I love it. Gabby, you raised your hand to jump in and go next. Kelly, you can wrap it up and you get to tell anything you haven't heard already.
So actually, I want to also present the need to be specific at some point when recognizing people. You know, we as my company take the time to celebrate every win and every order that we get, and be specific there. You know, what is the value that the customer recognizes? Because others want to look at this and say, okay, how can my name be next? How can my team appear there? You know, what do I need to mimic? What do I need to do in order to be on the board? So as specific as we get, others will say, oh, now I get it. You know, I understand what is my goal now. So yeah. A combination of different, you know, the kudos and recognizing and sending gifts here and there and also being specific. I think this is what creates the winning situation.
Yeah, you know, I'm glad that you reminded us of that. There's actually psychological studies that say the feedback is so much more meaningful when you call out specific things that people did, not just great job, right? Now we can get creative. It's not on a big TV. Maybe it's a chat. Maybe it's an email. Gabby, you talked about sending gifts, which is super cool. Kelly, what else have you heard? How are people driving the motivation and the recognition?
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to invite everybody to, if you want to practice the kudos, it's just Kelly Spencer. You can, like, whatever I've done. I know Joey Goodson. There's a bunch of people that I've worked with. You know, just practice with me. Talk about all the great things. Yeah, I mean, you want to practice and get it right before. Yeah. So, you know, I'll be that test dummy. I think. See, Lizette's already practicing. So. I think the first thing when you think about how am I going to celebrate success and ultimately what we're trying to do is keep a fun culture going is we have to kind of redefine what success is, right? For some of us, that's changed. Some of your industries have been massively hit, and a success from 3 weeks ago is completely different than it is today. And so I think first of all, it's redefining what that is, and then it's figuring out some of these cool ways. You know, I love the kudos. You know, the other thing I think is you've got to figure out, you know, hey, what do I need to do to, number one, celebrate success, but then also just kind of keep the culture going because of this, right? Lauren, is that DJ?
Cam.
Oh, Cam. So, you know, it's what am I doing? And I think somebody had wrote in here, I want to give you credit because I saw it in here. Josh, I think it was Josh, wrote in here, we're having a virtual happy hour, right? Fantastic idea. And I've heard some of the customers that I work with talking about this virtual happy hour, doing trivia games, meet the family, meet the pets, meet the, you know, the significant other. Let me show you what my house looks looks like, right? And doing things where it's not work-based, right? It doesn't always have to be about what did you do well today. Some of it is just making it fun, because I don't know about you guys, but working remotely, it's lacking a little bit in the whole fun department, right? My house is a fun place, but it's definitely lacking a bit. So, you know, I need those things. And I think all of our reps need those things. So I would look at it from all those different perspectives.
The favorite thing you said, Kelly, was redefining success. So if we're still trying to, you know, get meetings, right? And nobody's answering their freaking phone. And like, we just had a pipeline call today that said, guess what? Pause everything. I don't want to hear reports. There's zero pressure. Don't reach out to anybody, right? Like, this is the time to give back, not the time to go drive sales. So if you haven't redefined the success is having a human conversation with somebody, then your reps are still out there trying to do it. And believe me, everybody who is LinkedIn spamming me right now, like, I just am putting them in a special file in my brain, right? All right, so good segue, Kelly, to fun. Paul, talk about recognition and then a little bit about fun. And then Adam, I'm gonna hit you next on that.
I don't know if I have a lot to add to what I've said on the recognition, but the fun part is just keying off something Kelly said. The team that I currently lead, most of them have not worked full-time remote before. And one of the things that I was able to figure out fairly quickly was we needed to separate a little bit of how we met. In other words, we had our weekly team meeting. That still happens, although I've made it into 2 smaller chunks through the week. But then we also have a 15-minute stand-up each morning together. And there's no rules except one rule, which is nothing work-related. So that's what made you remind me of it, Kelly. Is we can talk about anything, right? Somebody brought their newborn baby one time. One time we had fun with virtual backgrounds on Zoom. But like I said, but it's nothing work-related. I'm trying to capture some of that banter and just the casual relationship building that goes on when you are together. And that seems to be working.
I love it. Good. Adam, talk about having fun.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a couple of really good examples that have come up in our company, and Kelly mentioned a few of them earlier, but tonight, for example, one of our managers is hosting trivia, and the idea is it's not just for employees. So as an employee, your team is your family. Just like you go to a bar and there's trivia and there's a team, like your team is your family, and the trivia isn't just work related, although I'm sure they'll sprinkle a couple of those questions in. But the guy actually went out and found typical trivia questions you'd answer in like a bar environment, and it's designed to just be trivia like anyone that would go to a bar or a restaurant to run it. So I thought that was a cool idea. One of the other things our manager's doing, and maybe you should have had him on here instead of me because he's so much better at this stuff than I am, but he instituted a MTV Cribs style tour of your home when someone closes a deal or reaches goal or whatever the case may be. And they're even mimicking a lot of the trends that were on that show, like opening the fridge and showing what's in there. So I don't know how many folks remember that show, but it's stuck in my head. So I thought it was cool. I thought it was really creative. I thought it was smart. And most importantly, the reps loved it.
That's really cool.
That is cool.
Really cool. I'm going to read a couple in the chats in case everybody doesn't see that. Listen to this one. A virtual story time session for kids of employees. And then like it actually gives your employees some downtime to go and work. Like go set them in front of this Zoom for 30 minutes and somebody's going to do isn't that interesting? Like if it doesn't explode, my boys would be over it in 30 seconds though. That one's tough. I also heard one about a daily meditation. Margaret, was that you telling us about that?
Yeah. Actually, one of the coolest things that our company has done, because they've done quite a bit of things, but this one was really cool, is they have a daily 20-minute meditation meeting, and it goes out to all the employees, and it's a series basically, and it's set at the same time every day. And I would see it, and I'd be like, yeah, I got all these other meetings, I'm going to keep going. And I was actually on a call with a colleague of mine, and we were talking about some of the pressures of, how we're quickly having to turn, the ship in different directions that wasn't typically going that fast in. And she recognized, she said, maybe you ought to attend that meditation. And I'm like, but it's in the middle of the day. I don't have time for that. And she goes, you should probably try to make time. And so I did. I think she was subtly telling me to breathe, right? Because like you, Paul, I can process really quickly and throw things out there quite a bit. And so I did. On Monday, I actually canceled a meeting to do the meditation, and it was really, really nice. And I was actually sharing this today with someone on my team, and I said, hey, have you attended the meditation? And again, she said, no, I think I declined that series, no. And I said, well, let me resend it to you because I think you ought to try it out. And so now, you know, we're like passing it, making sure other people join that piece, that time to just take a moment, you know, again, get off Zoom, get off talking to people, just, you know, your 4 breathes in, 4 breathes out. It's just really nice to be reminded and to have friends and team members remind you, take a moment.
Hey, we need it in a big way. I'm live demonstrating a chat that came in, Virtual Pictionary. Can you see my whiteboard? Chat.
Yeah.
I'm up. This is not easy. I'm looking for guesses. I'm looking for guesses.
Cat or something.
Exactly. Oh, we've got to end it. That's just painful. Yes, got it. That was fun. Thank you for that suggestion, Ted Martin. Nice. All right. So you open up your chat if you haven't already, because there's lots more game ideas in there that is about bringing the fun. I'm going to do a lightning round around our panelists. Everybody shared with me 5 do's, 5 don'ts, and a couple things they've screwed up in the past. If we're going to have a do round, if you haven't shared it already, you haven't heard it already, 1 tip, we're going to go Brady Bunch style. Kelly, you are top left. Hit it. 30 seconds are left.
So my tip is continue your one-on-ones just as usually scheduled, but also, you know, kind of opposite of the fun side is in your one-on-ones, start them with a real conversation. How has this been impacting you? And then share with people how it's been impacting you, you know, back to them. And what I've found is, and just in the conversations I've been having, we have that conversation and it brings us so much closer with that personal connection of understanding what this is doing to us. And then just go right into your one-on-one and go ahead and talk about the business that needs to be discussed.
Nice. Good. I'm going to switch it up and go bottom right. Gabby, what's your top do?
My top do is make meetings just for 45 minutes. Forget about the hour. You know, there's no hour anymore. People need that time to decompress, to go and make a coffee, to wash the dishes, to say hello to the family, to, you know, feed the cat or go out with the dog. 45 minutes, that's the max. And you'll be surprised how efficient you can be in 45 minutes.
I'm so ready for that. Immediate activation over here. Big time. Thank you for that. Paul, hopping over to you. Top do.
I'm going to focus on sales enablement for this one, LB. And that is, if you're, and this is mostly directed towards sales leaders, if you have a sales enablement team, and hopefully you do where you work, use them as a resource to help your employees transition into work from home. They likely have, or certainly have access to modules and coaching and things like that to help not only you as a leader in the transition, but more specifically to your team. So be sure to leverage that resource and go talk to them, see what they have.
Thank you for that. We were talking on a previous meeting today that you've got meetings, leader-led, smart, manager-led, smart. You've got coaching, and in between should come training, right? The meeting is the what and the why, but the training is the how and the when and the where. And then your managers are enabled to actually go and give the custom feedback to that, the direct tips and tricks on execution and build confidence. But when our managers are doing the heavy lifting of both the training and the coaching, that's where we get fail points. So thank you for reminding us about our enablement teams. Margaret, you're up.
Yeah, so lots have already been shared, but one of the things I think we've been trying to do is just, you know, just a quick little check-in maybe by text. Hey, I'm thinking about you today, or hey, great message today, or, you know, you got this, and oh, didn't connect with you today, but let's catch up tomorrow. Just, you know, something short, sweet. The other thing that I also noticed is our teams are all sharing maybe having to also do homeschooling with our children now. They're all home, and all of us seem to be struggling in one way or another. And we've been sharing tips on how to get through that stress. We're all working on the work stuff, but sharing tips on how to be better effective in the home environment has been helpful too. And that's been really nice.
That is, it absolutely helps. And I could use those tips for sure. I'm epically failing in a lot of those areas. Adam, top do.
Yeah, I'd say the top do, especially for those of us that are leading people. You know, we've talked a lot about how to help them with the anxiety of this and how to be flexible with them. Gabby talked about that. The big do, I would say, is don't forget about yourself. That we all know when we're highly anxious and we're not happy, we project that onto our teams. I think sometimes we cut our people more slack than we cut ourselves. If you've told your folks, hey, don't be afraid to cut out of work early for your kids or take an extra hour and a half in the day, listen to your own words, because if you're not okay and you're creating extra anxiety for yourself by holding yourself to too high of a standard, you're actually making things worse for your employees without knowing it.
That's a really good point. I love that one. Thank you for that. I'm going to shoot over to a question now that came in from folks. Most of the questions ahead of time were, I'm in sales and I need to be outbounding to people right now. I still have a job to do. How do I do that in these times? So, Adam, you're off mute already and you're right there in the front lines. Talk to us about what advice you've given your team.
Yeah, I would say a couple of things. So one, no matter what industry you're in, there are trends that are happening within your customer base if you look deeply enough. So even if your market is affected very heavily by what's going on right now, I bet you there's pockets of your market, whether it be specific verticals, specific geographies, specific persona types, that right now is actually a very busy time for them, and it is extremely appropriate to reach out to those folks. So I would say start there, and that may be something that a sales manager can help you with or sales enablement can help you with, is splicing your customer base as thin as possible to look for the folks that not only is it not off-putting to reach out to them right now, it's actually a really good idea to reach out to them because they have a heightened need for their products or services. So I think that's one tip. And then the other thing I would say is just reach out with empathy. I know you keep reading that in blogs and you read it in articles, but to a certain degree, we all got into sales because we care about people. I think that's why we got into sales. And if you approach it from that standpoint and approach it with empathy, you'll be fine. As long as that's your mindset, then your outreach will be fine if you're really genuinely trying to understand and help people.
I like that. By the way, since most of us here are in sales or sales leadership, I will tell you I'm taking more sales calls than I ever had before, right? I don't know. My good friend Trish Pertuzzi talked about be the bump, right? Take a sales call. What can and should you invest in right now? Margaret, what's your advice?
Yeah, I agree with you, Lauren. When you get that sales call and you don't want to be sold to, you're kind of annoyed at first, right? But I've actually quite enjoyed it because I'm hearing different techniques and how they're connecting, like the do's and don'ts of them connecting with me. Well, one of the things that I thought I would share is that our team is taking the approach of just listening, right? Instead of selling, even though we are listening to our customers, what are their needs? How are they approaching this situation? And because we're able to listen to them more effectively, because we're not coming in with a pitch right at the front, we're able to hear what's going on. And then, like you said, Adam, you're able to hear that little, maybe it's not the right time to be connecting with them to sell something, but yet you connected with them. But there are those customers that really are needing something and they didn't know they had that need before they expressed it. And so by having that real conversation with them and connecting with them, you were able to hear that.
And so having the team, so I'm putting on an enablement hat, Paul. I know that you're there too, right? So how can we teach our teams that? So some of that comes into what are great questions that you can ask? What are open-ended questions that you can ask that will open up conversations that are not directed towards, are you ready to buy blankety blank blank, right? Is
Right.
your productivity up? How is your customer base? Tell me how this is affecting, right? Kelly, can you jump in here with some tips and tricks on what works?
Yeah, I got an idea from a customer I was talking with that I thought was fantastic. So at their afternoon huddle every day, they would sit down with their team and they would literally just say, I want to know what is the impact of your customers, and I want you to tell me the industry they're in and how they're being impacted, and then tell us anything that they're doing specifically to mitigate the risk of what's going on. And so every day they're doing a huddle and they're sharing this. And the whole point is to ultimately give your reps ammunition, those levers that are connecting people right now, right? If you've gone through our training, you know what a lever is in our Swift introduction, and that's something that connects people. Well, right now we have the greatest levers of all time, right? We have something easy to connect everyone. And then the value is really what you can add, like, hey, these are other companies in your industry. Here's some of the things that they've gone through, and here's some of the things that they've done to mitigate that risk. And really helping you open up that conversation to build a better relationship and potentially fill up your pipeline later if that's not possible now.
We went really rapidly into offer value mode. And right, there's like, we spun up 3 programs in the span of a week. And it was all about how do we add value to our, not just our pipeline, our customers, our everybody we can. And that's, I think, the right thing to do right now. But we have to do it with authenticity, not with veiled sales pitches. And your reps need training on that. They need help. I can tell you just for the messages I get. Paul, your hand's up. Do you have more to say about that?
Well, this, yeah, it was something, I think it might have been in the question that triggered this for me. I happen to be attending, today UT Dallas is putting on a virtual sales leaders conference, and I was able to sit on part of that this morning. So this isn't my tip. This actually comes from Sherry Leviton. But she said that when salespeople ask her similar question to that, she helps them remember, tries to help them remember that money is simply a byproduct of adding value. Focus on finding ways to add value in your customer relationships, and then the sales will tend to follow. I think, so that's, I want to share that.
Nothing else we can say that's better about
Yeah.
that. I'm going back to a question, guys. This is from JC. What's the best way to apply pressure to your sales reps when you're doing, online status calls? So you've got reps that aren't making the numbers. In-person meetings made it easier to read the body language, see if you're applying too much pressure, right? Obviously, the goal is to motivate them to hit quota, but there's different techniques to motivate. So when remote is new, how do we find the right amount of pressure, and how do you apply that pressure remotely? Who wants to take that one, panelists? Come on off mute and go.
Go ahead, Adam.
Now it's a fight, Adam, Kelly. Paul, you're being polite,
Sure.
raising your hand. You never get called on, man. This is fight, duel to the death. Adam, you get to go first.
Sure. I would say it's not much different than if this is happening in an office environment. The biggest thing you're responsible for as a manager is understanding the why behind things. Anybody can see their rep is struggling. Anybody that has access to Salesforce dashboards can see the what, but it's our responsibility to understand the why. And I think Paul said it earlier. The first and best way to show that you trust to know that you can trust someone is by showing that you trust them, by giving them that trust. So my advice would be start from a place of assuming the best about them, and that the issues that they're having are related to working remotely, or related to their kids being home, or, even worse, maybe they have someone negatively affected by what's going on right now from a health standpoint. So walk in thinking that is the case, and start by asking those types of questions, and make it be a process of elimination. I mean, there's a chance that maybe they're just taking advantage of working remote and not working very hard. But even within that, that's probably just a lack of motivation and engagement, and we can affect that too. Maybe they're afraid to reach out to people because they think they're going to be intrusive during times like this. So I've experienced in 99 out of 100 cases, there's a why behind it, and the why isn't, Greg is just a lazy bum. And so I think it's our responsibility to try to dig in and figure out what that why is, and try to help them solve for it. That's my take.
So well said. Adam, you didn't say it here, but you said it all over the notes we talked about previously. Do it by picking up the phone. Have that one-on-one phone conversation. Kelly, you were next in line.
Yeah, I say this quite a bit to anyone who's heard, but our job as leaders of people is to define a good day. I think it starts by redefining that good day with today's current environment, and getting honestly, asking and not telling what you're capable of doing. And then, almost the setup of how we're interacting is almost a little easier now, because you're getting kind of those daily checkouts with pretty much every rep where they're having to tell you, hey, here's what I accomplished. Now you just define as a good day. Does that make sense? Is that something you can accomplish? Now reach back out to me every day, and you'll next action. If the next action is, hey, didn't hit 2 days, so I'm going to pick up the phone and figure out what's going on, and having that be real conversation, cool. If they're doing a great job, let them take on some of that pressure and accountability by being taking ownership of a good day
Paula,
is, and then let them act.
I want to second, first of all, what Adam said about assuming positive intent. Sometimes that is easy to say, hard to do, but I think it's even more critical. And I would tend to look at what was their, if assuming that this is I'm going to assume that a lot of people are transitioning into work from home, where you're used to having a team that's in-house, right? Or at least most of the time. What were they like before this transition? Were they a successful rep? Were they doing the things that they need to do every day to fill their pipeline and all of that? Because to me, it's probably a different situation when a high-performing rep is now struggling in this new environment. And I think then I would be more tending to try to find out, is it a people, what's going on with them, versus someone who already struggled to get things done when everybody was together. I probably really need to be watching them more closely at the beginning and maybe structuring things for them a little bit differently.
Thank
So
you.
that's my initiative.
Lauren, one of the things that we actually started to implement before we all completely went remote was inviting our regional managers are invited to a Zoom meeting with a customer once a month. So that they could actually hear the customer, since not all calls are made right there in the office when we were all together, but now that they're remote, there's some coaching that can go on by listening to a recorded, hearing the customer, hearing the employee, and how they're prospecting and how they're working with that customer. And then also being able to pick one of the top recordings per week or per month, however you want to roll that out, to share with others so that they can listen to it at a later time and pick the positives and some things that they liked or grew from that experience. So that was a peer-to-peer type of experience as well. So using some of the technology that we already have.
I think call coaching is an answer to the second level on so much of this. We've got to drive expectations. We've got to drive accountability. We have to drive culture. You want to know what's really going on? Now's the time to be getting on calls with people. And for many of us, we actually have the time to do that. I'm going to do one more lightning round, and this one's going to be the don't round. Gabby, I loved everything in your don't column. What are two of your favorites you can share quickly?
I actually am going to go with one that is not popular. So in advance, I will say, organizations tend to have a certain hierarchy, and there are managers, and there's a certain way. I'm saying, break all the silos. I like calling on everyone, and I found out that if I want to really learn what is going on, I randomly call employees. It doesn't matter who they report to. I'm saying, I'm just calling to say how are you. I want to hear them from the people that are really there in the front lines, and talk to customers every day, whether it's customer success or professional services or sales or pre-sales, etc. So maintaining a very rigid structure is a big don't for me. So
I love that. And by the way, it's right next to your other don't assume they don't need
exactly,
you just because
they don't call. Yes. So the fact that someone doesn't call or doesn't send a message saying I'm struggling, it doesn't mean that they don't need you. So I actually implemented, and I raised, I announced to my team, and I said, every Friday, call someone that you never call. Pick someone from the company and call them. And I'm hearing amazing stories about people randomly calling people that they never work with, and say, hey, I just, thought directory, and I decided, and people.
I'm doing it. I love it. Thank you. Margaret, I'm coming to you next. Top don't.
Well, don't cancel your one-on-one just because you're having a ton of meetings and a lot of turning of the ship direction and building construction, things like that going on with this change, Make sure that you are connecting. And even if you need to move it, definitely rebook it. Even if you can't do an hour, at least check in 10, 15, 20 minutes. So making sure that your team is still connecting and still driving in the right direction. And again, like Gabby said, connecting, making sure that they know that you're there because they might not be telling you when you cancel.
Margaret, I have to highlight something else brilliant that you said here that I didn't hear anybody else say yet. We're talking about driving things with the team, but your tip was try to limit the number of priority requests that you're driving right now. I made that mistake.
Yeah.
We have a little downtime. Holy 7 projects that we started all at once, right? But we all have, Kelly, I know. Thank you for not actually laughing out loud at me, but that's probably only because you're on mute. So we all have extra demands right now. So maybe don't feel like you have to fill all 8 hours out of the day, and you'll get better productivity and quality during the hours you get. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I actually share with my colleagues at my level too that says, hey, if you think somebody else needs to take this on, let's think about what else they're already taking on, and let's think at our level, is this a priority right now, or what are their priorities that now have to be moved because of it too? So it went down and it went sideways as well.
Yeah, way to lead. I appreciate that very much. Gentlemen, you each get 30 seconds for your top don't, and then I have a final slide. Paul, let's have you go first since you lost the battle last time.
Don't accidentally extend your team's workday. And that's not as difficult to do as you might think. If your day is wall to wall and you find that the time you're catching up on emails and Slack messages is 7:30 at night, try to avoid doing any that they're on, because that just inadvertently sends the message, and people right now are extra sensitive to feeling like they always have to be visible.
Good. Thank you. Great reminder. Adam.
Yeah, I'd say the big one for me is don't multitask during conversations. I don't know why, but it's a lot more, you just feel the need to do it more when you're remote. It's a lot more tempting when it's a phone call or a web meeting than if you're face-to-face. But fight the urge to do multiple things. Focus on the conversation you're having with the person on your team. Even though they can't see you, they can tell that you're not 100% focused on them, and that sends a really bad message. Not to mention you're just not doing a great job of having that conversation.
We talked about empathy with our customers. Good one. Really, really good one. Thank you. Kelly, you get the last word.
Yeah, just mine is don't overreact to missing your goals. And don't overreact to metrics that are going a little wonky right now. None of us know what it should look like or what it will look like. And so manage to skills, manage to people versus deals and missing things.
Perfect last word. Speaking of that, we do have a chat coming into you live with Kate in the background. Thank you. We have 2 more resources if this is interesting for you guys. Okay, we talked about coaching. Kelly is joining me with Kathleen and myself doing a deep dive tomorrow with the AAISP into remote coaching. So a few more virtual tips will be there, but then we're deep diving into coaching and how to do it well. We're trying to fit about 4 hours of content into that. So that will be interesting. Already so many people on that. We've had to kill breakout sessions. We're at 400 or 500 people. If you haven't heard of it already, we have a training and referral program for folks who are in need. So if there are layoffs happening to you and yours, get them over to this link. We're giving everybody free certifications and then helping send them to companies we're curating who are hiring. I know we have 10 or 20 already on that list, and we are out finding more every single day. So this doesn't have to be the end of a road. This can be a giant reshuffling of talent and opportunity, because now we all know that we can be virtual. So Gabby, that was your final tip, which was don't let geographic location be a limiter for you.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. Yeah, focus on talent. Yes.
All on talent. Our talent pools just exploded. If you have questions still that weren't covered, I invite you to chat them into live right now, and we'll do our best to get more covered in a blog or other session. there's a topic that we didn't get to and you're dying for us to schedule something else, chat that also in right now. I thank you so much to this amazing panel. Paul, Gabby, Margaret, Adam, Kelly, Kate in the background. I learned a lot from you guys, and I've been remote for 15 years. Thank you. And to our friends of Factor8, I hope this was valuable. Pick 3 things that you're going to try. Wait a minute, lower expectations. Pick 1 thing that you're going to try the rest of this week to help drive the accountability and the culture and the fun that we need during this time. Can't wait to see you on the next one. I hope you'll join me tomorrow for the AAIST session. I'll stick here for a couple minutes for any final questions and chat. Thanks, everybody. People are looking for more training on defining a good day. Very interesting. Thanks for that. Good. Good stuff. All right, I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. For those of you still with me, thank you. I want to look at your faces one more time. Let me get rid of my share. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. Really good insights, and it was so much better than us just finding the tips and sending them out. So we owe you a big one. You made a big difference. You looking in the chats with all the thank yous from people? That's fantastic. We had over 100 folks here. Way to go. Really good job. Really good job. All right, we'll talk to you guys on the flip side.
All right.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.